Hey guys, tonight we visit a village that technically still exists on maps. But you're standing in it right now. And it's dead quiet. No cars, no people, not even the gentle sound of conversation behind closed doors. Just a soft morning fog that clings to your clothes and that strange, metallic stillness in the air, as if the world itself is holding its breath. You walk past cracked cobblestones and rows of little pastel-colored houses, their paint faded by the sun and rain. The shutters are half closed, windows smeared with dust. A toy tricycle lies tipped over near a doorframe. The scent of wood smoke lingers, but no chimneys are lit. A chicken waddles across the street, pecking idly at nothing. Somewhere nearby, a radio hums static, left on by someone who forgot or never had the chance to turn it off. And then it hits you. There's no one here. No children, no elders in rocking chairs, no shopkeepers sweeping their doorsteps. You call out once, twice, just to test your sanity. But the only reply is your own voice bouncing back, slightly warped. It's like the village is still in the middle of waking up, except the people never got out of bed. Or maybe they got out and vanished. You probably won't survive this. So, before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. Also, post your location and the local time in the comments. I love seeing where you're tuning in from. Now, dim the lights, maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum, and let's ease into tonight's journey together. You step farther in. Each house you pass tells a story, and not a single one has a happy ending. You peer into a kitchen window. Plates are still set for breakfast. 2 cups of something that might have been coffee now, dried and rimmed in mold. A towel hangs over a chair. A single sock on the floor. Not torn, not stepped out of in a hurry, just forgotten. You check another home. Same vibe. A hairbrush left mid-stroke on a dresser. The calendar stopped on the 19th of the month, 2 days before today. And then, something oddly modern. An unplugged phone charger dangling from the wall. No cell signal here, of course, but someone still kept habits. In the town square, a fountain gently trickles water, still working, still clean, as if maintained by ghosts. You sit on its edge, half expecting someone to pop out of a bakery holding a tray of pan dulce and say, "Just kidding, welcome to the village." But no one does. You're alone, surrounded by signs of life, with no life in sight. The village is called San Jose de los Milagros, a name that literally means Saint Joseph of the Miracles. Irony noted. It's nestled deep in the mountains of Oaxaca, about 5 hours by dirt road from any major city. Population, as of last month's census, 72. Now, zilch. Nada. This kind of thing doesn't just happen. Or at least, it's not supposed to. But here's the part that keeps crawling up your spine like a centipede in moonlight. There are no signs of struggle. No blood. No broken windows. No frantic scrawled messages. Just an empty village caught mid-moment, like a paused video no one resumed. You check a house with a well out back. The pulley creaks when you turn it, rope dry and dusty. No signs anyone's drawn water in days. But nearby, you find a strange stack of rocks, neatly placed, deliberately balanced. Not something the wind would do. And the shape? Kind of resembles an eye. You try to tell yourself it's just a superstition, just rural folks doing rural things. But then, you see a line of footprints in the dirt road. Bare feet, all going in the same direction. No prints coming back. You follow them for a while, passing an old schoolhouse with children's drawings still tacked to the wall. One picture shows a stick figure with long arms, and, is that a trumpet? We'll come back to that. You reach what looks like the town's edge. A small cemetery rests on a hill, shaded by crooked mesquite trees. Even here, it's too quiet. The dead feel more alive than the missing. A couple graves have fresh flowers sun-bleached now. One bouquet's plastic, melted at the stem. And then, you notice something else. The animals. A few goats, a jittery horse tied to a post, and 2 mutts with ribs showing. They eye you warily, but what's weird is what they won't do. They won't cross a certain patch of road near the chapel. They sniff, pause, whimper, and back away. You go over, of course. You're you, and all you find is a torn white ribbon caught in a nail. Later, you'll learn this was a wedding ribbon, customary here, to tie them outside the chapel before a ceremony. But no one's been married here in years, so why is it fresh? Historians still argue whether San Jose was truly alive in the weeks leading up to its vanishing. Some say it was already half abandoned due to economic strain. Others claim people were slowly withdrawing from the world, guided by a local mystic. One record even mentions a sudden purchase of 30 harmonicas, though no one knows why. One old man in a neighboring village, Don Ernesto, says he remembers hearing something strange 2 nights ago, like bells or trumpets. Not music, he insists, more like a warning. You're not sure what to think, but as the sky darkens slightly and birds start returning to trees that didn't host them this morning, you realize something. This village didn't die. It left. You head back to the village square, retracing your steps, trying to convince yourself that maybe, just maybe, you missed something. Maybe they went on some kind of group pilgrimage, a festival, a storm evacuation. Any explanation would do, really. You're not picky. You just want there to be a reason. But then you remember their shoes. At least a dozen pairs are still lined up neatly outside various doorways. Little canvas sneakers, worn leather sandals, even a pair of rain boots despite the dry season. No one grabs footwear for a panic evacuation, but more importantly, no one who plans to disappear completely forgets to lock up. Inside one home near the chapel, you find a family photo hanging on the wall. Mom, Dad, 3 kids, all smiling under a piñata. On the table beneath it, a partially completed puzzle, the pieces arranged in a precise border. You glance closer. The image, a mountain landscape, with a single figure standing alone in a clearing. You tilt your head. The figure is unusually tall. And that's when you realize there's something too perfect about the way everything was left. Even the animals hadn't been let out. Their owners hadn't been dragged away. They hadn't fled in the night. It was as though they'd all stood up and left, together. You find a dusty clipboard on a shelf near the municipal office. It's last month's census sheet, done by hand. 72 residents, full names, ages, occupations. There's even a note about a birthday party scheduled for the 20th yesterday. You glance up at the sky. It's still only the 21st. 72 people, accounted for just 2 days ago. You read down the list slowly, mouthing the names. There's a barber, a school teacher, a pair of cousins who ran a small tortilla stand, a midwife, aged 81, a teenager named Julianne who liked astronomy. You find yourself attaching little, imagined personalities to each name, as if that will tether them back to the world. But they're gone, every one of them. You walk down a narrow lane toward the edge of town, past a house with bright red bougainvillea choking the fence. There, tucked under the porch, you spot something weird. A folding chair, a paperback novel open on its seat, and a portable radio still playing very softly. But it's not music. It's a steady click, click, click. Morse code? You grab your phone, try to record it, but the moment you step too close, the signal cuts to static. When you back away, it resumes. You try twice more. Same pattern. Click, click, click. Later, you'll look it up and find it's not Morse at all. It doesn't match any code. And here's the kicker. The radio has no batteries. You head toward a modest stone building marked Almacen, storage. Inside are crates of dried beans, rice, corn flour, everything a village might need. Some packages have been opened, scoops resting beside them. A few bundles have fresh fingerprints in the dust. This is where they got their food. Someone restocked just days ago. And now, it's untouched. Flies drift lazily through sunbeams, but no rats. No birds pecking through spilled grain. Even they know something's wrong. A little farther back in the room, tucked behind a stack of empty jars, you find something that stops you cold. A cooler, still humming softly, running on a backup solar line. You open it. Inside, a birthday cake. Icing slightly melted, but legible. Feliz cumpleaños, Julian. The cake was never cut, and just like that, the teenager from the census becomes real to you. Maybe he'd been excited about turning 17. Maybe he'd invited friends. Maybe there was music planned, balloons, a bottle of Coca-Cola, a bad karaoke machine. But now, there's just the cake, slowly collapsing in the cold. You sit down hard on an overturned crate. The temperature in the room suddenly feels colder. That's when the door creaks behind you. You spin. No one's there. Just wind. Or maybe not. Because something shifts outside. You hear a faint scraping sound, like a shovel dragged over stone. You rush out, look left, then right. Empty street. A dog watches you from the roof of a nearby house, fur matted, eyes wide. It doesn't bark. It doesn't move. It just stares. Back in the main square, you stop at the school again. The doors are open. A plastic jump rope lies coiled on the floor. Chalkboards still bear lessons in Spanish. Los colores primarios son, and hoy es Marte. Today is Tuesday, and then, in the far right corner of the classroom, a desk you missed the first time. On it, a journal, bright pink cover, stickers on the front, hearts, unicorns, a smiley sun. You flip it open. Most entries are typical: friends, crushes, boredom, complaints about chores, but the final entry gives you pause. He came again last night. I told Mama, but she said not to talk about it. She said he's not real. But I heard the song again. Even the baby stopped crying. The moon went black. I think he's waiting for us. You check the date. 2 days ago. You look up. The classroom feels colder now. You shiver and step outside again, back into the reluctant daylight. Mainstream history tells us that villages sometimes vanish due to war, famine, environmental collapse. The ancestral Puebloans at Chaco Canyon, the Greenland Norse, Roanoke. But in every case, there were signs, bones, drought rings, ash layers. Here, there's only presence, like the people are still here, just out of reach. And yet, the fringe theories are already bubbling up online. One Twitter thread insists it's government biotesting. Another claims a rift opened in the earth. Someone else mentions that the village lies along an ancient ley line, you know? Those hypothetical energy veins that supposedly connect sacred sites across the world. Historians still argue whether ley lines are anything more than poetic nonsense, but even skeptics admit that places like this seem to hum with a different frequency. You begin to feel it now, don't you? That tension, like the air here is vibrating subtly, uncomfortably. Just enough to make your jaw clench, your thoughts scatter. You swear your watch is ticking out of sync with your pulse. And that's when the sun dims just slightly. Not like clouds passing, more like a flicker. Like someone hit pause on reality for just a second. You look up, and for a split second, you think you see movement behind one of the shuttered windows across the square. You rush toward it, heart pounding, shoes crunching gravel. You slam the door open. Inside? Just a mirror. Your own reflection, distorted by the warped glass, staring back. You decide to slow down, catch your breath, maybe eat something, hydrate. Do one of those normal human things just to anchor yourself. So you duck into a little house on the edge of town, terracotta walls, slanted tin roof, a hand-painted sign over the door that reads, Doña Lupita's Panaderia. It smells faintly of yeast and cinnamon. There's an oven at the back that's gone cold, but still holds a half-baked loaf. The dough is stiff, crust starting to harden like someone was interrupted mid-recipe. The counter has fingerprints in flour, and beside it, a rolling pin placed perfectly horizontal. You glance at the wall calendar. Like all the others, it stops on the 19th. You sit at the small wooden table, its surface smoothed by time. It's the kind of kitchen where generations pass down recipes like secrets. You can feel the life that used to fill it, but not a single trace of where that life went. That's the part that keeps clawing at your brain. If this were a massacre, you'd expect something. Scorch marks, bullet holes, blood. If it were a cult, maybe some grand symbol or farewell etched in paint. But San Jose de los Milagros has none of it. Just nothing. You walk outside again, squinting into the mid-morning sun, still too quiet. The breeze now carries a soft scent of something you can't quite place, kind of earthy, almost metallic, like the moment after lightning strikes nearby. And then you remember something. There's a small concrete building near the town entrance. You passed it earlier but didn't think twice. You head that way now. It's the village's health post. Inside, the walls are lined with yellowing posters. How to prevent dengue, what to do during childbirth, cartoon lungs explaining tuberculosis. The fridge hums quietly. You open it. Inside, a few remaining vials of vaccine, untouched. There's even a power strip with a phone plugged in. Battery's dead. Of course. You check the desk drawers, mostly forms and blank charts, but one logbook catches your eye. It's the nurse's visitor log. The last entry is short. 17:7. Entire village quiet today. No one came in. Strange feeling. Like the air is heavy. Going home early. E. You flip back. The entries are sparse but normal. Someone came in for a tetanus shot. A kid with a fever. Someone getting prenatal care. But then, 3 days before today, silence. No new visits. No check-ins. It's as if the village went still all at once. You head out and follow the narrow lane that loops behind the main square. This part of town feels older, more worn down. Some houses have collapsed walls, others are covered in vines. But one building stands out. It's low, long, with a wide garage door and a faded government seal on the front. It's the Deconsa Depot, government food supply. You try the door, locked. Then you notice tire tracks, fresh ones, leading up to the loading dock and back out again, headed down the hill. You kneel to inspect them. The tread is distinct military pattern, not a civilian truck. Someone was here recently, maybe even after the village went quiet. Back inside the square, you stand at the exact center and slowly turn in a circle. Every building stares back at you. Every shadow seems thicker than it should be. There's no sign of chaos, just absence. That's when you notice the birds, or rather, the lack of them. No pigeons, no crows, no flapping wings or distant chirps. Just the occasional mosquito and a few nervous insects buzzing in your ear. It's too quiet. Like nature itself hit mute. You start wondering if anyone did see something. Maybe not from inside, but outside. And then it clicks. There's a farmer who lives 2 kilometers away. His name's Domingo. You remember the cyclist who found the village, mentioned seeing a small ranch along the path in. You decide to head there, even though it's uphill, and the heat is rising fast. The path is narrow and rocky, lined with dry brush and an occasional nopal cactus. It winds higher and higher until you reach a rickety wooden gate. Behind it, a modest house, a shed, and a man in a wide-brimmed hat pulling water from a barrel. He sees you and freezes. You call out, raise your hands, explain who you are. He nods slowly and lets you in. Domingo speaks softly. His Spanish is thick with dialect, words melting into each other like honey. But you catch the essentials. He hasn't gone into the village since the 18th. He says he heard something that night. A low sound, not quite thunder, not wind. It started around 3 a.m. and lasted for 10 minutes. He says the dogs didn't bark. They just lay flat on the ground, trembling. When he tried to look outside, his windows were fogged up from the inside. Like breath, he says, but no one was there. In the morning, he walked to the edge of his property and looked down at San Jose. Smoke was coming from the bakery chimney, but no one ever lit it again. He stayed away after that. You ask if he saw anyone come or go. He nods, just once. Camión del gobierno, he says. Government truck. 3 days ago, it stopped at the depot. He watched through binoculars. The driver went inside, came out looking, disturbed. Didn't finish unloading, just drove away. Domingo says he's lived here 58 years. Says he's seen strange things, lights in the sky, trees bending with no wind. Once, he says, he saw a shape tall, narrow, white standing in the cornfield. When he looked again, it was gone. He tells you something else too. He says San Jose wasn't always called that. Long ago, the village had another name, one that no one writes down anymore. Piedra del Silencio, Stone of Silence. He doesn't know why they changed it, only that his grandmother once warned him. If the night ever sings to you, don't listen. Historians still argue whether the village had pre-colonial roots or was simply a 19th century Catholic settlement. Some claim it sits atop an older ceremonial site, Zapotec or Mixtec, depending on who you ask. But no excavation has ever been done. No one ever tried. Too remote. Too unimportant. Funny how unimportant places become very important the moment they disappear. You thank Domingo and head back down the hill, brain spinning. The government knew something. And that delivery truck driver? He might have been the last person to see the villagers alive. You're starting to realize the timeline matters. If you can reconstruct the final few days before the disappearance, maybe you'll find a crack, some hairline fracture in the normal rhythm of life that reveals how 72 people just slipped out of reality, like breath, into cold night air. The government truck is your first anchor point. It came on the 18th, based on Domingo's account. A food delivery from Descansa routine. Nothing flashy, but something about that visit went wrong. The driver, who should have spent time unloading and doing the necessary paperwork, apparently panicked, left early. Maybe he saw something, or maybe he brought something. You walk back to the depot. This time, you circle around to the rear loading dock. The big garage-style door is closed, but the smaller staff door is just slightly ajar. Its hinges bent like someone forced it from the outside. You push it open with your foot. Inside, the air is thicker, mustier. A few metal shelves stand half-stocked dried beans, powdered milk, canned tuna. But here's the thing. One pallet, tucked against the far wall, is wrapped in plastic. It hasn't been touched. Not a single box removed. You tear into it. It's filled with standard government aid kits. Rice, oil, sugar, basic toiletries. But wedged between two boxes, there's something weird. A small black crate labeled Proyecto Lux. None. No logos, no barcodes, no markings that make sense. You open it. It's empty. Just a faint smell of ozone, or scorched metal, or fear. Hard to tell. You suddenly feel like you shouldn't be here, like you're being watched by the room itself. You step back, nearly trip over a fallen clipboard. It's the delivery manifest. You flip through it, and there it is. The final entry, handwritten in tight, nervous script. 18-7, shipment incomplete. None transported. No unloading. Return advised. Do not remain after 14. 0. Do not remain. That's not standard logistics language. You pocket the page and leave the depot. No one reported this. There's no record of an incident in San Jose. No missing persons alert. No alerts to other villages. Just silence. A cover-up, or worse, compliance. Historians still argue whether rural areas in Mexico have been used for covert operations tests, experiments, secret dumps. Some point to Cold War documents that reference containment zones. Others dismiss it as conspiracy fantasy. But if you were going to make a village disappear, this is the kind of village you'd pick. Remote, isolated, lacking cell service, and most conveniently forgotten. But that theory doesn't explain the other parts. The dreamlike traces, the strange behavior of animals, the lack of decay, and the sound that keeps getting mentioned. Music. So you start asking yourself, what kind of music makes people walk away from everything? You check the chapel next. It's a squat, adobe structure with a blue wooden door and a bell tower that leans just slightly. The front door creaks as you enter, and immediately you're wrapped in a heavy silence, thicker than outside, as if the building is trying to muffle your thoughts. The pews are in perfect rows, no signs of haste. The altar cloth is neatly folded, candles unburned. But in the far corner, near the offering table, you find something odd. A cassette player. Dusty, but not ancient. Battery powered. You press play. Nothing. You open the battery case. No batteries, but the inside is charred, like something overheated. You pick up the cassette and squint. The label is handwritten in looping cursive. Para el regreso. For the return. You slip the tape into your pocket and step outside. You need air, but your ears are ringing now. A low, high-pitched tone, almost like a sustained note from a wind instrument, but it's not in the air. It's behind it. You shake it off and decide to check the local tiendita, the general store. It's tiny, barely more than a front room, stocked with snacks and essentials. The fridge holds a few sodas, warm now. Shelves are mostly bare, except for 2 full crates of bottled water. The register drawer is open, a few coins left behind. But next to the counter, taped to the wall, is a flyer. Grupo de Oración Silenciosa. Jueves, medianoche. Traer solo alma. Silent prayer group. Thursday, midnight. Bring only soul. You check the date on the bottom. 18/7. Same night the truck came. Now things are starting to braid together. There was a group, a gathering, a planned midnight ritual of some kind. You head to the school again. Not the classroom this time, the library annex. Inside, you search through musty textbooks and moldy atlases until you find what you didn't even know you were looking for. A record book from the 1950s. In it, someone had carefully cataloged oral histories from village elders. And buried near the end is a story that sends your blood temperature down a few degrees. Mi bisabuelo hablaba del día de la caminata blanca. Todos se fueron con el hombre que canta. Nadie volvió. Solo los zapatos quedaron atrás. My great-grandfather spoke of the day of the White Walk. Everyone left with the singing man. No one returned. Only the shoes were left behind. You slam the book shut. This has happened before. Not here, but somewhere near. And it's a story that predates electricity, predates memory. You recall what Domingo said about the old name, Piedra del Silencio. What if this place has always been a kind of magnet, a trigger point? A village that cycles through this mystery every generation or two, like a wound that never quite heals. You step outside, feet dragging. In the fading light, something glimmers near the base of the water tower. You walk toward it, nestled. You don't take that step. Not yet. The air is holding its breath again, and so do you. That soft, distant music seems to coil inside your ears, rather than arrive from outside. It's not catchy, not even melodic, more like a pattern of sound that your brain wants to recognize but can't. Almost like a lullaby, translated from a language no human has ever spoken. You press the medallion into your palm until the edges dig into your skin, and the sound fades. Just like that, you breathe again. You're still in control for now. You back away from the water tower, slow and deliberate, as if the tower itself might lurch forward like a spider when you turn your back. You make your way to the town's edge, following a small footpath between 2 crumbling adobe walls. This path, you realize, leads to the Pozo Viejo, the old well. You reach it just as the sun dips behind the western ridge, casting the village into long blue shadows. The well is dry, the stones worn smooth, and at the base of the wooden frame is something that doesn't belong. A half-buried radio collar, like the kind they use for dogs or wild animals. You brush away dirt. There's a serial number scratched into it, and a QR code sticker, sun-bleached and barely legible. You photograph it with your phone, but of course, no signal out here. It'll have to wait. You hold the collar in your hands, trying to picture which animal might have worn it, and why someone was tracking animals here in the first place. Was it part of some research project? Or were they tracking the people? The pieces don't fit. Then you remember something Domingo said, that the dogs wouldn't enter certain buildings, that they flattened themselves when the music started. You look back toward the town. The square is still, but the absence is louder now. You wander back along the road leading into San Jose, this time scanning the dust more carefully. That's when you find the first footprint, bare, small, a child's, followed by more, then adult prints, all heading in the same direction, out of the village. No turning back, no dragging, just a slow collective walk. You follow the trail. It leads past the final row of homes and into the trees. The path narrows, twists, rises. Thorny vines claw at your clothes like they're trying to pull you back, but you push forward. And then there they are, shoes, dozens of them, scattered in the undergrowth, some piled deliberately, others alone, flip-flops, sandals, church shoes, work boots, toddler sneakers with little cartoon characters. Each pair abandoned, toes pointing forward, like someone stepped out of them mid-walk. You kneel beside a pair of polished black dress shoes. Inside one, a folded scrap of paper. He said we wouldn't need them. That's all. no signature. You glance up, suddenly feeling like you've trespassed somewhere sacred or forbidden. The forest seems to muffle itself, sound swallowed whole. The only thing left is your own breath. You push ahead, following the trail as it grows narrower, swallowed by brush. And finally, after about a kilometer of steady climbing, you see it. A gate. Iron, rusted, its hinges eaten away by years of disuse. Beyond it, a tunnel mouth, carved into the mountain black and gaping. The old mine. Locals mentioned it once, vaguely. Said it collapsed in the 70s. No longer safe. But here it is, wide open. And just outside the entrance, arranged in a half circle, are more shoes. 72 pairs, if you believe the count. You shine your flashlight into the tunnel. The beam stretches only 20 feet before being swallowed by darkness. But you take a cautious step inside. The temperature drops immediately. The air tastes like dust and rust and something else. Burnt sage? Ozone? Your brain cycles through scent memories, trying to label what's wrong. 10 feet in, the ground changes. Soot, charred stone in a perfect circle. Half-melted objects, metal trinkets, plastic combs, belt buckles, a wristwatch, warped, and scattered among them, dozens of small silver charms, all trumpets, all facing inward. You turn slowly, light trembling in your hand. The walls are bare. No cave paintings, no graffiti, just clean stone. But the ceiling above the soot ring is different, blackened, as if scorched. And in the center, a hole barely wider than your palm, perfectly circular, clean-edged. It doesn't lead anywhere, just a dark shaft that vanishes upward, as if something came down. You step back, your head spins. You crouch, trying to breathe through the nausea, but your ears are ringing again, worse this time. Music, the same warped melody, but now it's echoing off the stone walls, except the tunnel has no speakers, no wind, nothing should be making sound. And yet there it is. You bolt, stumble out of the tunnel, lungs burning. The shoes seem to lean toward you now, like they're watching. Once you reach the gate, you stop to look back. The tunnel's gone silent again. And then there's a flash, just for an instant, like heat lightning inside the shaft. Pale and unnatural. You turn and run. You don't stop until you reach the village again. Legs shaking, chest heaving. The square welcomes you like a painting still. Colorless, frozen. Historians still argue whether San Jose's mine was ever truly active. Official documents list it as prospected but never exploited. But locals tell stories, strange ones. Lights seen above it. Voices heard from within. One tale even claims a priest once sealed the mine with salt and prayer after a boy went missing in 1939. They say the boy came back 2 days later, older, taller, quiet. You sit on the fountain's edge again, just like in the beginning. But now, the silence feels heavy. Not empty, crowded. You take the medallion from your pocket, run your thumb across the trumpet symbol. You whisper aloud to no one, "Where did they go?" And from somewhere deep behind your thoughts, an idea surfaces, soft and certain. They didn't go anywhere. They were taken. You're still sitting there, fountain at your back. Silence like a weighted blanket over your shoulders when the sun slips away completely. No golden hour, no gradual dimming. Just that peculiar, flickering fade again, like someone adjusting the brightness slider on the whole world. You check your watch. It's 3 p.m., but the air feels like midnight. You stand, legs still unsteady, and glance around the plaza. For a moment, you think everything's exactly as you left it. But then, something catches your eye. A chair is out of place. Just one. A wooden rocking chair, now sitting in the middle of the square, facing the chapel. You're absolutely certain it wasn't there earlier. You've walked this spot a dozen times. It should be collecting dust under a porch, not centered like an audience seat at a one-person performance. You approach it cautiously, like it might lurch to life and sprint away on spindly legs. But it's just a chair. Well-worn, curved rockers, a hand-carved sunburst design on the seatback. You brush a finger along its armrest. It's warm. You jerk your hand back. There are no footprints around it, no drag marks, no signs of movement, and still warm. You decide to check the municipal building next, the town hall. Its front door bears the village's coat of arms, a mountain, a sheaf of corn, and a trumpet. You've seen that symbol in a dozen places today. It's burned into your memory now. Inside, dust motes hang motionless in the beam of your flashlight. The main office is neat, the shelves lined with dusty ledgers. You pull one down, Actus del Pueblo 1000, 981 1000, 994, and start flipping through pages. Most entries are mundane: births, deaths, marriage licenses. But halfway through, you find an odd section. A half dozen blank pages, followed by a single line written in a rushed hand. El pueblo debe callar. The village must be silent. You close the book slowly. Something crackles behind you. Not loudly, just a soft scuffle, like paper moving, or cloth shifting. You spin around. Nothing. But the air now smells faintly of something burned rosemary? No, not quite. Something drier, like parchment and ash. You're about to leave when you notice a folded map pinned beneath a glass paperweight. It's hand-drawn. The village square is at the center, and radiating out from it are symbols, mostly X's. But there's one symbol repeated 6 times, a small spiral. The same spiral you saw carved on the medallion's edge, too faint to notice before. 6 spirals, 6 locations. You snap a photo of the map and slip outside again. The moon is up now, but it's wrong. Pale, bloated, and slightly off-center. You blink. It looks like it's vibrating in place, just slightly, like a mirage on the horizon. You scan the square again. Now there are 2 chairs, identical, side by side, facing the chapel. You don't say anything. You just keep walking. One of the spiral symbols on the map was located near the tiendita. You head there again. This time, you go around the back, a narrow alley, overgrown with weeds and tangled vines. A broken clothesline dangles from one corner of the roof, and beside it a trap door, half concealed under a plank of rotting wood. You pry it open. A cellar. Small, claustrophobic. You descend carefully. Inside, it's quiet except for a low thrum, like a generator or a heartbeat. But there's no engine, no machines, just shelves, books. Not many, but all handwritten, dozens of them. Journals, sermon drafts, flyers for prayer circles. You skim through a few, fingers trembling. They all speak of la escucha, the listening. Sometimes it's capitalized, sometimes not, but always reverent. Like a title. One passage, ink faded, reads, "We don't speak during the hours of resonance." That's when he listens. That's when the veil is thinnest. The listening is not hearing, it is being heard. Another journal, bound in leather, contains a list. Julieta, 9. Maria, 74. Sergio, 41. Isola, 17. Padre Tomas, marked with a black star. Todos. Todos. Everyone. The final page is torn, but a word remains, scribbled vertically along the edge. Volveron. They will return. You return above ground and stumble out into the open air again, eyes scanning for the next spiral. And you freeze. 3 chairs now, lined up neatly. You don't even check them. You just walk faster. Another spiral marked on the map was near the cemetery. You make your way there, breath hitching with every step. The cemetery is quiet, but not peaceful. More like waiting. You pass row after row of crumbling gravestones, names etched in shaky script. Some you recognize from the census list, but several stones are new. 2 new. The dates? All red. 19 de Julio, 2025. Today's date. But there are no bodies, no disturbed soil, no flowers, just the names carved clean into marble. You whisper a few of them aloud, trying to make the village feel real again. Julian Lopez, Doña Lupita, Ernesto Cruz, their stories, their bakery, their solar-powered vaccine fridge, all gone, all engraved here. And as you turn to leave, something glints in the moonlight behind one of the larger headstones. Another medallion, this one cracked. You pick it up, same trumpet, but on the back, the word escucha. Listen, your hands shake, your pulse skips. This isn't a ritual gone wrong. It's a ritual done perfectly. You return to the square, because of course you do, because you have to see, because you already know. 4 chairs, now facing you. You don't sit, you don't run either. You just stand there, caught in that space between logic and terror. The chairs, those 4 identical rocking chairs, remain perfectly still, perfectly aligned, perfectly patient, facing you, as though waiting for a 5th. You take a slow step back, then another. Your breath fogs slightly in the night air, though the temperature hasn't dropped. That's the thing, it's not cold, just hollow. There's a word for it. That feeling when the world isn't broken, but rearranged. Uncanny. You fumble for your phone again. Check the photo of the hand-drawn map. The next spiral is marked on the hillside above the village, near an abandoned lookout tower. You hadn't noticed it earlier, but now, under this too bright, too fake moon, it practically pulses on the ridgeline. You set off. The path is overgrown but obvious. Your flashlight beam dances across cacti and rocks, and once a rusted bicycle half buried in sand. A child's bike, red and yellow. Its wheels still spin slightly in the breeze. You keep climbing. When you reach the tower, you pause. It's made of stone, narrow, with a single open arch at the top. No door, just stairs spiraling upward into shadow. You hesitate, then climb. Each step creaks under your weight, though the structure looks sturdy. When you reach the top, you realize you're now higher than any point in the village. You can see the whole square, tiny, distant, eerie. And the chairs? Still there, all 4, still facing where you were standing. You turn slowly and spot something lodged into the wall. A metal box, locked shut with a rusted latch. You jimmy it open with a flat rock, and inside, you find a bundle of letters. Dozens, all addressed to La Autoridad Federal Depto de Asuntos Sobrenaturales, Distrito Federal, Mexico. No stamps, no dates, no responses. Just letters written by someone named Mateo R., the former alcalde mayor. You flip through. Most are desperate, begging. We followed protocol. We've made offerings. The listening still persists. Please, we cannot keep quiet forever. The children are hearing things at night. We try to soothe them, but he listens. There are 6 resonant points. We've mapped them. We've avoided them. It's not enough. There's a pause in your thoughts as you reread that. 6 points, 6 spirals. You found 4, 2 remain. You take a deep breath and tuck one of the letters into your bag. The wind shifts suddenly, bringing with it a sound you don't expect. Children's laughter. Not joyful, not cruel either, just wrong. Looping. The same 6 seconds over and over. From the village square below, you peer over the edge, hands gripping the stone, and your blood runs cold. 5 chairs now, the 5th smaller, a child size, rocking gently, despite the still air. You descend the stairs, boots slamming louder than you mean them to. The 5th spiral was marked near the village's only well, a few meters from the edge of town, just past a cluster of abandoned stalls. You hurry there now, legs moving with the urgency of someone who doesn't want to be followed, but already knows they are. The well is covered with a rusted grate, padlocked in place. Someone cared enough to keep it closed, but on the side of the stone rim, a sentence has been etched in deep grooves. Aquí comienzo. Here it began. You lean in, listening. Nothing. Then barely audible, just once a whisper. You don't need a 6th spiral anymore. You know where it leads. The chapel. The chapel you haven't entered yet. Because deep down, you've been saving it. The main doors groan as you push them open. Inside, everything is covered in white sheets, pews, the pulpit, the altar, all shrouded like ghosts at a costume party. Dust filters through the moonlight, pouring from a stained glass window, except it's no longer depicting a saint. It shows a faceless man, or not quite faceless. His features are listening, ears in place of eyes, a mouth stitched shut. You shine your light across the altar and see it, the final spiral, carved into the floor, exactly at the chapel's heart. You step toward it, hesitant. Your phone vibrates. You glance down. New message, do not speak. No number, no contact name. You didn't even have signal. You look up. A figure stands at the back of the chapel. You freeze. It doesn't move. You blink and it's gone. You spin, heart in your throat. But it's not behind you. It's at the front now, standing on the spiral. Still, listening. You back away. You don't speak. You don't even breathe. And then just before you turn to run, the figure raises a hand and points out the window, toward the plaza. You stagger outside, every step heavier than the last. And when you reach the square, 6 chairs, all filled, all rocking, all facing you. And for the first time, you realize they're waiting for you to sit. You don't sit, you run. No thought, no plan, just movement raw and panicked and ancient. Your feet hammer the uneven cobblestones, your lungs begging for air, but nothing feels fast enough to outrun the feeling that's chasing you. Not a sound, a presence. You don't look back. You can't, because every fiber of you knows that if you do, they'll be standing, all 6 of them, and this time, they won't be rocking. You duck into the nearest building, the tiny general store you passed earlier. You remember its dusty shelves and fogged up windows. Now you slam the door shut, lock it, and press your back against the wood. Inside, it smells like wax paper and old cinnamon. You slide down to the floor and close your eyes, just for a second, just long enough to catch your breath. That's when you hear the radio, soft static coming from behind the counter. You rise slowly, body tense. The radio is ancient, knob style, cream-colored, with a peeling label that reads, Propiedad de la Escuela de San Juan. You reach for the dial. The moment your fingers touch it, the static stops and a clear voice cuts through. If you're hearing this, you already know. You freeze. It continues. The 6 points are not doors. They're ears. They listen. They remember. And if you speak in their presence, they make room for you. In the silence. You can't breathe. There were once 237 of us. We mapped them. We avoided them. We thought that was enough. A long pause. Then, we were wrong. You lunge and switch it off, but the silence feels worse now. Heavier. Like it's pressing in on your ears. You glance around the shop. Shelves of flour, canned beans, a rack of old postcards. One catches your eye. A black and white photograph of the village from above. You look closer. It's not the modern village. It's older. Maybe 1950s. And at the center of the plaza, 12 rocking chairs. 12. You flip it over. In neat handwriting, San Juan de las Sombras, Dia de la Escucha, no hablar. You slip it into your pocket. You need answers, not ghost stories, not spirals and whispers and vanishing figures. History. You head to the one place where rural towns like this keep their secrets. The schoolhouse. It's uphill, near the ridge, past the crumbling playground. You climb through a break in the gate, careful not to disturb the broken swing still creaking in the wind. Inside, the air is thick with chalk dust and mildew. A single blackboard stretches across the room, untouched. The desks are tiny. On the wall, a photograph of a man, perhaps the schoolmaster, with a caption beneath, Don Mateo Ramirez, Director y Cronista Municipal. You blink. Mateo R. The same name from the tower letters. You rifle through a filing cabinet, the drawers stuck with age. In the bottom, wrapped in wax paper, you find an old composition book. You sit cross-legged and open it. It's not a school log. It's a journal. They call it the silence, but it's not that. It's a trade. Sound for safety, words for mercy. If we obey, we survive. But even obedience has a cost. You flip further. Today, the dogs began barking at the well again. That means he's waking. We won't survive another breach. Another, I told the children to hum quiet, soft songs when they're scared. It helps. The sound doesn't carry far, and he doesn't notice humming. You read every page, devouring them. One final entry stands out, dated June 6, 1974. One of the children spoke, a joke, whispered in the dark. His chair appeared the next morning. I couldn't bring myself to remove it. We must never forget. Each seat is a lesson. You close the book. The rocking chairs. They're not just symbols, they're reminders. Each one belongs to someone who spoke, who disobeyed. And once the chair appears, once it rocks, there's no undoing it. The village has enforced its own silence for generations. You stagger to your feet, mind reeling. But the questions only grow. What exactly are they obeying? You exit the schoolhouse and look back down at the village. It lies still under that strange blue-white glow. Too still. Your next stop is the only place that hasn't yet been explained, the cemetery. Because if the chairs are for the living, maybe the dead left behind something more honest. You climb the last slope to a gated field, stones jutting out at odd angles. Names you recognize from the journal, from the map, from the radio. You spot a small mausoleum at the center, unmarked but clean. Inside, tucked behind an urn, you find a reel-to-reel tape recorder. It's already running, clicking quietly. The tape inside is labeled Prueba 7, Llamado al Silencio. You sit on the cold stone floor, heart thudding, and press play. A male voice, young, hopeful, fills the space. We're recording from inside the chapel. The spiral has been redrawn. There's a breeze tonight. It only moves when I speak. A long silence. Then, Mateo says the listener can't resist curiosity, that words are bait, so we're trying something new. Silence, interrupted by laughter. You hear chuckling, not joyful, controlled, like someone pretending to laugh. The tape clicks. Another voice enters, older, tired. Mateo? If you're hearing this, remember, the village didn't disappear. It collapsed inward, into its own hush. We did this. We chose this. Please forgive us. The tape ends, and the silence is absolute. Even the wind has stopped. You stand, and from somewhere deep in the valley you hear it again. Laughter, echoing, grainy, mechanical, like it wasn't made by a human mouth, but scraped together from old tape. And it's getting closer. You don't sleep. How could you? That laughter is still echoing in your head, not just the sound, but the texture of it. Grainy, mechanical, like it wasn't made by a human mouth, but scraped together from old tape. You keep telling yourself it was interference, a coincidence, some bored trucker with a messed up sense of humor. But deep down, you know, that voice, whoever it belongs to, was laughing at you. The silence stretches so long it becomes a pressure. Not the peaceful kind people write poems about, but the sort of hush you feel in old basements, hospitals at night, or inside your own skull when panic hits. It's dense. It hums. You make your way back to the town square. The rocking chairs are still there. 6 of them. Still rocking. Even without wind. You notice something new. Their positioning has shifted slightly. Now, they face inward toward the center of the plaza, as though attending some invisible meeting. And that's when it hits you. There's no fireplace in this town. No signs of heating systems. No soot. No chimneys. But everyone's houses have stoves, firewood, bundles of kindling. So where does the smoke go? You step to the center of the plaza and crouch. The cobblestones are uneven, and in between them are small vents, like narrow grates. Hard to notice unless you're looking for them. You press your hand against one. It's warm. Below your feet, something's alive. You scan the buildings ringing the plaza, your eyes settle on the chapel. Not because it's the biggest, but because it's the only structure with no windows. Just a single wooden door, with no handle on the outside. You're not welcome there, which means you have to go in. Around the back, you find a small maintenance hatch, maybe for cleaning or storage. It's rusted, but with enough force, it opens with a scream of hinges. Inside, it's pitch black. You flick your flashlight on. There's a spiral carved into the floor identical to the symbol you saw on the tower and in the journal. But here, it's burned into the wood, charred black. You step over it, careful not to touch. The chapel's air is stale, dead, and yet, beneath the silence, You hear something, a faint rhythm, a pulsing, not drums, a heartbeat. And suddenly, you remember what the tape said. The village didn't disappear, it collapsed inward. You inch forward until you reach the front of the chapel. There is no altar, no pews. Only one chair, large and ornate, almost a throne, and above it, scrawled into the wall. Ano habla, todos escuchan. One speaks, all listen. You back away, too fast. Your heel hits something. You spin. It's a small bell, not hanging, resting on the floor. And without warning, it rings. Just once. But that's enough. The ground vibrates slightly, like the tension before an earthquake. Then, silence again. And then, a new chair appears in the plaza, right in front of the chapel. You see it from the slit in the chapel wall. A flash of motion, of materializing wicker. The seventh chair, and it's rocking. You race outside. The villagers are still gone, but now there's one small change. The rocking chairs are closer together. The gaps between them are shrinking, like they're forming a circle. You can't explain it, not in any logical way, but it feels like they're preparing for something. And whatever that something is, it's coming soon. You leave the plaza, cutting through an alley behind the butcher's shop. That's when you see it. A narrow, hidden passage between two buildings, leading down. You shine your flashlight in. Stone walls, soot marks, steps carved directly into the mountain. A tunnel. With shaking hands, you descend, deeper and deeper. The air cools until your breath fogs. You walk for what feels like half an hour. Then you find it, a chamber, natural but partially carved out, filled with relics. Personal items, small statues, and on every wall, words, phrases, scribbled in dozens of hands, but all saying the same thing. We chose the silence. We made the trade. We gave the voice. A low hum begins to rise from behind you. It's not a sound, it's a lack of one. A vacuum. Your ears pop. And from the far end of the cave, a shape begins to emerge. Not walking, forming. A figure made of shadows, broken clock parts, and rust. Its mouth is stitched shut but vibrating. You don't wait. You run, back through the tunnel, out into the village, stumbling into daylight that now feels wrong. Too pale, too sterile. The rocking chairs are completely still, but now there are 8. The 8th is yours. It sits where you've been standing earlier, the shape of your jacket still in the seat, one arm slightly crooked. Rocking once, twice. Then still, you've been marked. No more speaking. Not here, not anywhere. The spiral doesn't just listen in San Juan. It remembers. Wherever you go, you make a decision. It's time to leave. But as you start walking, the village does something it hasn't done all night. It speaks. Not with voices, with sound. One by one, radios crackle to life. From different houses, from the school, from underground. They all say the same thing. You were told. You were warned. Now you carry it. And when you speak of us, a pause. Another chair will rock. You step outside the village boundary, finally. The air warms. The birds return. You should feel relief. But you don't, because somewhere in the corner of your mind, a memory is rocking. Back and forth, back and forth. You don't tell anyone, not at first. What could you say? That a village with no people rearranged its own furniture to warn you? That a stitch-mouthed shadow offered you a chair you didn't ask for? No, of course not. So you say nothing. You drive back down the mountain in silence, headlights scanning empty roads. And even though the engine hums and the tires crunch gravel beneath you, it all sounds far away, like you're underwater. Or worse, like you never actually left that tunnel. By the time you hit the first real town, the sun is rising. People are walking dogs, getting coffee, laughing, and you feel like you've come back from the moon. You stop at a gas station and head inside. The cashier greets you with a tired smile. "Morning," he says. You try to respond, but your throat locks. The words won't come. You cough, Clear it. Try again. Nothing. It's like your voice is caught on something invisible, hooked, tethered, the same way a fish flails silently once it's reeled from the water. You nod, buy a bottle of water, and leave. Outside, in the parking lot, you finally manage to whisper, "I'm okay." And from behind you, the gas station radio flickers on. You didn't touch it. No one did. But it crackles, and a voice, distant and familiar, whispers back, "We know." You spin, heart hammering. Nothing. Just ads for tire rotation and a jingle about breakfast burritos. But the damage is done. You're not imagining this. The spiral came with you. You return to your apartment, shut every window, unplug every device. You even throw your phone into a drawer and wrap it in aluminum foil because, let's face it, you're way past pretending this is normal. And then you talk. Not a confession, not a podcast. You just talk out loud to yourself. You describe everything you saw in San Juan: the empty village, the chairs, the radio, the chapel, the laughter. And as you speak, something strange happens. You feel watched, not from outside, from inside. Your own head begins echoing, like your words are bouncing around in a cathedral that doesn't exist. Then you notice it. Your kitchen radio, the one that hasn't worked in years, is on. Just barely. One red LED, blinking. You didn't plug it in. You didn't touch it. It's listening. And you begin to realize something dark. The silence in San Juan wasn't natural. It wasn't about isolation or trauma. It was about containment. The silence was the prison. And now that you've broken it, you've released something. Not fully, not yet, but cracks are forming. That night, you dream of rocking chairs, of them closing in around you, in endless circles. In the dream, you can't move, can't speak, can only watch as a stitched-mouthed figure steps forward and tilts its head. It doesn't speak, but you know what it's thinking. Your turn. You wake up gasping. Your room is quiet. No radios, no shadows, but something's changed. You pull back the curtain and look outside. And there, right across the street from your building, in the middle of a playground, is a chair. A wicker chair. Rocking. Gently. No wind. You close the curtain and don't sleep for the rest of the night. The next day, you go full research mode. You scour forums, old databases, even dig into local archives for anything about San Juan. And here's where it gets weirder. There's no record of the village after 1956. Not in census logs, not in satellite imagery, not even in hiking guides. It just drops off, like it opted out of being remembered. But then you stumble on something buried in a scanned copy of a 1973 anthropological field report. It's barely legible, typed on a mechanical typewriter. Subject: village exhibits collective mutism, a practiced cultural silence with ritual significance. Visitors report strong auditory hallucinations and perceptual dissonance. Locals cite spiral as mouth of the many. You dig deeper. A fringe theory posted by some discredited folklore professor in the 80s mentions a so-called Circle of Eight, a cluster of settlements across Latin America that each vanished without physical explanation, but left behind identical patterns: missing residents, furniture out of place, and strange electromagnetic signatures. Guess what each town had? A central plaza, a spiral, and exactly 8 chairs. No more, no less. The theory was dismissed as pseudoscience, fringe madness, but you're no longer laughing. Because last night there was 1 chair outside your window, and tonight there are 2. You're not the only one who's spoken. Someone else has too. You track down an amateur radio enthusiast who claims to have intercepted a strange shortwave broadcast the night of your visit. He's based 500 miles away, and yet his recording is almost identical to what you heard in the tower. Same crackle, same grainy tone, same laughter. Only now, there's an extra line at the end. The voice has returned. You ask him where he heard it from. He shrugs. Northwest, I think. Bounced off cloud cover, but hard to tell. Could have come from anywhere, or everywhere. The spiral isn't a place, it's a network, and you've logged in. The question is, How do you log out? You go silent again. Avoid all tech. You write everything down by hand. But it doesn't matter, because one night, just before sleep claims you, the voice visits one last time. Not over radio, not in your head, but whispered soft, like breath from inside your closet. The ninth chair waits. You freeze and slowly realize there were 8 in the circle, but now there's you. And there's someone else out there. Someone who heard. Someone who spoke, which means the circle's expanding. And if no one stops it, there will be 9. Then 10. Then 12. Then enough for a quorum. Enough to speak as one. And when that happens, well, you probably won't survive it. You avoid mirrors for a while. It sounds silly, you know. But every time you glance at your reflection now, there's this fleeting delay, as if your image is just a little behind, like it's deciding whether to match you or not. And worse, sometimes, when you aren't looking directly at it, you swear your mouth isn't closed. You wake one morning to find all the chairs in your apartment have been rearranged into a circle. Not a perfect one, but unmistakably intentional. You didn't do it. You live alone. So you knock them all over and shove them into a closet, stacking them clumsily. That night, the closet door creaks open on its own, just a little. You decide to go out, into the world, try to forget San Juan. You head to a bookstore downtown, a little place with a sleepy cat and more dust than customers. The kind of place that doesn't sell coffee because it doesn't believe in distractions. You need to read about anything else. You end up in the Latin American folktale section, flipping through volumes on La Llorona, El Silbón, the Cadejo. But nothing quite fits. Then you spot it. A thin, faded book shoved sideways on the top shelf. No author. Just the word Silencio burned into the cover. You open it. Blank pages. Hundreds of them. Until the very end. And there, typed in tight old font, he who hears must not echo. He who speaks must not shape. He who sits must not rest. You blink, and for just a second, your reflection in the bookstore window has stitched lips. You turn around fast. Nothing. You leave the book where it is, but the cashier stops you at the door. She's old, maybe in her 80s. Skin like creased paper, and a voice like gravel on gravel. She points at you and says, "You've been to one of them, haven't you?" You freeze. She nods. They always leave their mark. You carry it like a breath on your skin. You ask what she means. She shakes her head. The towns, they're not gone. They're just quiet, waiting. You press, ask if she's seen San Juan. She laughs. No, mine was farther south. A village called Enmedio. Gone now, or at least, not here. Then she says something you'll never forget. There were 9 of us. Then one spoke, then the others followed. After that, the chairs didn't stay put anymore. You beg her to explain, but her eyes drift past you, and she says only, "The spiral is patient." You leave, rattled. That night, you try to drown it out with music. You blast white noise, throw on headphones, pace for hours, and still you hear it. Not the voice this time, something worse. Humming, soft, off-key, like someone trying to remember a lullaby they never quite learned. You rip off the headphones. Silence, but you're not imagining it. You check your phone. It's dead. Still wrapped in foil. Hasn't been touched. Then you notice it. The buzzing. From behind the couch. You pull it away and find an old batteryless radio you don't remember owning. And it's on. You stare. It hums. You grab it, take it to the kitchen, and smash it open with a frying pan. The humming stops. But as you sweep the pieces into the trash, you notice the back panel. Etched inside, beneath a layer of rust. Para el décimo. For the 10th. You don't sleep. At dawn, you drive back to where San Juan should be. This time, there's no dirt road, no archway. Just dense trees and a crumbling no trespassing sign you're certain wasn't there before. You hike in. But the trail turns wild fast, overgrown, tangled, claustrophobic. And at some point, it occurs to you, you've been walking in a spiral, not a straight path, not even a loop, but something deeper, twisting, descending. When you finally emerge into the clearing, there's no village, no chapel, just chairs. 9 of them, all empty, all facing inward. The spiral carved faintly in the grass between them, and in the middle, a radio, not plugged in, but already playing. You don't go closer, you don't sit, but your feet ache to. You turn and leave, fast, nearly sprinting back through the brush. As you drive away, you realize it isn't about the village. It never was. San Juan, Inmedio, all the rest of those are just doorways. The real story is about the circle, and the question no one wants to ask: what happens when it's full? Historians still argue whether villages like San Juan ever truly existed, or if they were simply metaphors, folk memory artifacts meant to explain natural disappearances, war, or migration. But you've seen them, sat among their bones. And now, the spiral has your name. Everywhere you go, it follows. On wallpaper patterns, in bathroom tiles, even in spilled coffee. You stop talking entirely. Move cities, change jobs, delete every trace of yourself online. But one night, as you lie in bed, staring at the ceiling, you feel something shift beneath your apartment. Not a quake, a shuffle, as if someone below you just dragged something heavy across the floor. You wait, breath held, then faintly, creak, 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 rocking. You don't open your eyes at first. That's how most horror movies begin, right? The moment someone dares to look, things get worse. But lying there, flat on your back, you realize something more terrifying than any ghost story. The sound is still going. Creak, 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 steady, rhythmic. Too slow to be footsteps, too regular to be plumbing. A chair, a wooden chair, rocking, and it's directly beneath your bed. You tell yourself you're imagining it. Maybe you fell asleep watching some weird video. Maybe the noise is from your upstairs neighbor. Except your upstairs neighbor moved out last month. And your downstairs unit? Empty. Has been for weeks. Still, you gather enough courage to peek. Nothing. Everything in your room is normal. But that's part of the problem, isn't it? Nothing ever looks wrong until it is. You check the floorboards. No holes. No vents big enough to hide anything. Then you notice the pattern in the dust near your closet door. A faint swirl. A spiral. Again. Like something dragged a chair in slow circles across the floor. You back out of your room. Slowly. Call a friend. You want to talk about anything but what's happening. They pick up. You start to say hello. But what comes through your speaker? Creak, creak, creak. You hang up. The spiral isn't just following you now. It's inside. A few days later, desperate for distraction, you go to a museum. Big city, well lit, lots of people. You're hoping for dinosaurs, some vintage telephones, maybe a 14th century sword. But as you wander, something pulls you off track. There's an exhibit on Mesoamerican village culture tucked into a corner room. You tell yourself it's coincidence. It's not. There, behind glass, sits a cracked ceramic bowl covered in patterns. But not just any patterns. Spirals. 9 large ones encircling a 10th, smaller glyph. You lean in. No plaque explains it. Just a handwritten note under the display. Purpose unknown. Bowl found near unmarked graves. Chiapas region. Believed to relate to group ritual. Number of spirals varies across similar artifacts. Common themes include silence, seating, and symmetry. That last word hits hard. Symmetry. The circles, the chairs, the voices. You stagger back, suddenly cold. A security guard watches you. Not with suspicion, more like recognition. He walks over and asks, "Do they talk to you yet?" You don't answer. He nods slowly. It starts with a rocking, then the invitation. You'll know when it's time. Then he walks away like he didn't just say that. You leave the museum. And when you check your phone that night, no missed calls, no notifications, except one voice memo file you never recorded. It's 5 minutes long, titled, "For the 10th. You delete it immediately. Throw your phone in the freezer. You know, because urban legends say that stops spirits, or signals, or ghosts, whatever. But when you open the freezer 2 hours later, no phone, just a chair, miniature, made of ice, and in its center, a perfect spiral of frost. You don't scream. What's the point? Instead, you start reading. Everything. You dig into archives, flip through obscure PDFs, and even try weird occult forums where people whisper about things that don't fit history's timeline. And you find a name, Silencio Circulo. Not a town, not a person, a theory. An underground belief among folklorists that certain forgotten villages weren't erased by war or disease, but by choice. Voluntary silence, collective disappearance. The idea that if enough people simply stop talking, stop resisting, they can disappear together. Not die, not move, just slip. Historians still argue whether these rituals were real or symbolic. Some say they reflect social collapse after conquest. Others claim they're just poetic metaphors used by traumatized communities to explain why neighboring villages turned to dust. But the spiral keeps showing up. In pottery, in calendars, in the layout of ancient homes. Always 9+1. Always facing inward. And always paired with silence. There's even a fringe theory barely translated from Nahuatl that says the spiral is not just a symbol, it's a warning, a countdown. And that the 10th seat, the one in the middle, that's not for a person, that's for the voice. A kind of presence, or echo, that can only manifest when 9 have already gone quiet. The 10th completes the circuit. You slam your laptop shut, look around your apartment, nowhere is safe. That night, you drag every chair you own into the hallway. Neighbors complain. One tells you, "You can't leave these out here. It's like a seance circle or something." You freeze, because you didn't arrange them in a circle, but they are, perfectly. The next morning, you move into a hotel, one with no chairs. You specifically request that. The front desk doesn't blink. Turns out, you're not the first. The concierge simply nods and says, "We'll also disable the white noise machine if that helps." The hum makes some guests uncomfortable, and you wonder, how many others have heard it too? The creak, the hum, the voice that isn't quite there yet, always waiting. You don't sleep, you don't dream, but you keep hearing the same phrase in your head. Para el décimo. For the 10th. Not an offering, not a threat, a role, an inevitability. And late one night you get a package. No return address. Inside, a simple wooden chair. Rocking. No power source, no strings, no trick. Just slow, steady movement. You try to burn it. Toss it in the fireplace. The flames flicker. The chair turns black but doesn't catch. In the ash, you find a spiral burned into the floor. And then it hits you. You've never seen a 10th person. Ever. Only 9. The 10th is always the observer. The one who walks away. The one who carries it forward. You don't remember falling asleep. But when you open your eyes, you're already sitting upright. Your hands rest on something curved, solid, familiar. It takes a few seconds before your vision clears, before the light sharpens and your heart skips a beat. It's a wooden armrest. You're sitting in the chair. The chair, the one from the package. The one that rocked itself, even after fire touched it. And it's not in your hotel room. This place smells of dry dust and old wood, faint incense. Your breath clouds slightly in the air, even though it doesn't feel cold. Your fingers tremble against the armrests, and you begin to take in your surroundings. You are inside a stone room, circular, crumbling, lit by torches. 9 other chairs face yours, set in a perfect spiral. They're empty, but you don't need them to be filled to feel their presence. Someone or something has already been here. The dust tells you that. It's been disturbed. Curved drag marks lead from each chair to the center of the room. You squint. There's something on the floor in the middle. A shallow bowl. Ceramic. Painted in concentric rings of black and red. And at the very center, a 10th spiral. You know that bowl. It's the same one from the museum. You try to stand. You can't. Not paralyzed, but something deeper. A kind of resignation in your bones. Like standing would violate a rule you didn't know you agreed to. Instead, you listen. The room doesn't echo. It absorbs sound. Even your breathing feels muffled. And then just for a second you hear it. A whisper. Low, distant, but it feels like it's inside your ears. Di algo, say something. It's not a demand, it's an invitation. And you realize something: no one ever warned you about spirals. They're not just symbols, they're paths. You follow them, even when you think you're standing still. Historians still argue whether these kinds of disappearance stories represent cultural trauma, metaphors for genocide, assimilation, or plague. Others, more fringe, suggest these rituals were real, preserved in secret among Mesoamerican lineages, passed down like warnings through architecture, textiles, even lullabies. But the spiral doesn't care about interpretation. It only moves inward. You blink, and the bowl is closer, or you're closer to it. You try again to rise. This time, your legs obey, shakily. You step off the chair though, the wooden frame keeps rocking. Slowly, as if a second self still sits there. The bowl hums. Not audibly, but somewhere beneath your feet, vibrating slightly. Each step toward it gets harder, like you're wading through thick fog. Except there's no fog, just stillness, and something that feels like memory. You suddenly remember a name you've never known. Tenochtli. You don't know what it means, but it pulses at the edge of your thoughts. Old as stone, sharp as obsidian. Then, in the silence, your own voice speaks. But you didn't speak. I accept the seat. The bowl responds. Not with sound, but with light. Pale red, like coals buried under ash. Symbols swirl within it, not just spirals, but eyes. Eyes watching inward, one after another, 9 total. You realize something. There were always 10, 9 to vanish, and 1 to watch. But the spiral keeps turning. So eventually, the watcher must become the first. You reach toward the bowl. Something inside you screams not to touch it. You do anyway. The moment your fingertips graze the ceramic edge, something floods through you. Not pain, not power, but knowledge. This ritual, this place, it doesn't erase people. It absorbs them, preserves them in silence. Like a museum you can't see. A cosmic filing cabinet. You see flashes of the villagers, the children, the spiral traced on the ground with ash. You see the men in suits, too. The ones who came searching. You watch as they walk in circles, lose direction, give up, leave. And you see others, like you, modern, lost, accidentally seated. Each time, one more person begins the spiral again. One more 10th seat filled, one more silence accepted. You fall to your knees, not from fear, from understanding. They never meant to vanish, they meant to warn, but language failed them, and so they passed down symbols instead. Arrangements, patterns, chairs, bowl, spirals, and silence. The whisper returns. Eres el primero. You are the first. And you understand the spiral doesn't just go inward. It restarts. You get up. Walk out of the stone room though, you never find a door. Just the hum fading behind you, like a tide pulling away. Back in the city, no time has passed, or too much has. Your hotel room is untouched. The chairs are gone, except for one. In the middle, facing the door. You don't move it. Instead, you begin to write. Not online pen and paper. Because you know it now. This doesn't spread through words. It spreads through shape, through rhythm, through watching and sitting and staying too long. You start sketching the spiral. Leave it on a park bench. Then another. Then another. You tell yourself it's to warn people. But part of you knows, it's not warning, it's inviting. The chair waits, the 10th seat is always waiting. And if you stay quiet enough, long enough, you'll hear it creak, creak, creak. It starts with the dreams. They're not like your usual ones, the kaleidoscope of faces and nonsense your brain churns out after a bad burrito. No, these are sharp, consistent, oddly vivid. Same place, every night. A narrow street, red clay under your feet, tall, blank walls on either side. No windows, no sky, just a low, pulsing hum, and a voice sometimes, always the same, whispering, "Look behind you." You never do, not because you're scared, but because in the dream you know that looking means accepting something, and you're not ready, not yet. But the waking world doesn't offer relief either, because soon, it's not just your dreams, it's little things in the day. Street signs that seem to spin when you glance away. The word Kali scratched faintly into a bathroom mirror. Graffiti spirals you swear weren't there the day before. One afternoon, you open a package you didn't order. Inside, a postcard from Tsitsio, blank on the back. The front is a photo of a spiral carved into stone. Nothing else. You toss it. It returns the next morning, slid under your front door. Historians still argue whether post-colonial anxieties about disappearing villages in Latin America stem from reality or urban legend. It's true that Spanish colonialism left behind an enormous trail of erased towns, forcibly relocated populations, and silenced traditions. But whether there's a pattern, some echo of resistance, or memory encoded into geography is still up for debate. Fringe theorists argue that if you map those lost villages, they form repeating fractals. Designs too perfect for coincidence. Spirals. Always spirals. But you're trying to live your life. You go to work. You eat cereal. You watch reruns of shows where nothing bad ever happens, and then two things happen within 48 hours. The first is an email from someone named El Oyente, the listener. No subject line, no body text, just an image attachment. It's you, from behind, sitting in the chair. It's not your chair. It's the chair from the room, the circle of 10. Only now, there are 9 others seated. None of them look quite human. You delete the message, block the sender, even change your email address. 2 days later, the same photo arrives, in the mail. The second thing is this. You begin to forget words. Tiny ones at first, door, battery, coffee. Then more complex ones, memory, history, time. They slip from your brain like someone poked holes in your vocabulary. You hear yourself stutter, then stop, then laugh it off. Maybe it's stress, maybe you're getting older, but deep down, you know the truth. You're becoming part of something, and that something doesn't require language. It prefers silence. You stop answering your phone, then stop charging it. You sit outside more, at night, mostly, in a chair that rocks on its own. Neighbors think you're meditating, but you're listening to the sound beneath the city, the soft, rhythmic hush of something turning. One night, you wake to find the spiral carved into your ceiling. Not painted, carved, by hand. You know, somehow, that you did it. You don't even panic. Instead, you grab your jacket and walk outside. It's 3:00 a.m. No one's awake, except the man across the street. He's standing still, watching. He lifts one hand, not waving, pointing. Behind you. You don't turn around, but you know it's there. The chair. In the middle of the street, waiting. And just like in the dream, something whispers, "Look behind you." This time, you do. It's not a chair, it's 10 chairs. 9 are full, you are the 10th, but you're also standing. You see yourself seated. And the spiral completes. There's a snap like an old film reel ending, and you're back in bed. But now your hands smell of clay, and under your fingernails black dust. You check your reflection. Your eyes look the same, but something behind them doesn't. Your voice still sounds like yours, but when you try to say your own name, the sound doesn't come, only a low hum. You're no longer in the spiral, you are the spiral. Mainstream historians like to chuckle nervously when asked about cases like these: mass vanishings, silent villages, places like Roanoke, Tsitsio, or even the European town of Kittis. They say it's all myth or migration or disease, and they may be right, but none of that explains how your chair rocked itself last night, or how you woke up today with the memory of 10 strangers' faces burned into your brain, or how the postcard from Tsitsio now sits propped on your windowsill, facing inward, even though you locked your apartment. And there's that whisper again. It always returns. Yago, say something, but you don't. You close your eyes, and you listen. You never moved to Tsitsio. At least, not officially. Your name's never logged in any registry. Your phone's GPS never shows the coordinates. No airline confirms your presence on any flight heading south. Your bank account goes dormant. Your apartment lease expires, then disappears from the building's records entirely. To the world, you've simply dropped off the grid. But you didn't vanish. You faded, and you're not alone. Because somewhere, under a thick green canopy, past the places where roads forget themselves and maps stop pretending to care, there is a village. Not just any village, a silent one. No dogs bark, no shoes scrape dirt, no doors creak, no fires crackle. The jungle breathes, but the people don't make a sound. You walk past a woman slicing mangoes perfectly, precisely, blade never faltering, and she doesn't glance up. You see kids stacking stones into circles, their mouths slightly open but saying nothing. You glimpse a man painting sigils onto a wall with what looks like rust. Everyone has the same eyes. Still, flat, listening. They don't acknowledge you, but they know you're here. You're not a guest, you're a returnee. And somewhere, someone has already placed your chair. Historians still argue whether such return myths were invented to explain why some indigenous people would leave the Spanish missions and never be seen again. Were they escaping colonial rule, assimilating into hidden tribes? Or were they changing? Anthropologist Lucia Del Monte once recorded a local legend from Michoacan, one whispered by a grandmother who hadn't spoken in public for 40 years. According to her, Tzitio wasn't founded, it was remembered. Every so often, it calls back one of its own. That's what it feels like now. Not a kidnapping, a calling. But here's the strangest part. The village is familiar, as if you've always known the shape of it, the crooked lean of the bell tower, the square that never feels quite level under your feet, the path that loops inwards but never ends, and those chairs. 10 of them, perfectly placed in a circle of stone, not always occupied, but never empty for long. Sometimes you watch from a distance, sometimes you sit. The others aren't always there. They come and go like mist. But each time, you recognize them not by face, but by presence. Like tuning forks aligned across lifetimes. One woman hums when she breathes. Another weaves invisible thread in the air. One man sits backwards in his chair and looks at the sky, like he's watching a movie only he can see. And then, there's the listener. You never see them clearly, just a shape in the tree line, sometimes tall, sometimes small, always shifting. They never enter the village, but every so often, they whistle. 3 notes, always the same. You whistle back one day. The village freezes, then resumes. Nothing said, nothing explained. You've passed the test. Quirky fact, there's an ancient Mesoamerican ritual where participants communicate entirely through tones made from clay flutes, each shaped like an animal. The language is rhythm, pitch, and breath. Researchers still struggle to decode its full meaning. Some believe the flutes weren't used for music or messaging, but memory. You begin to understand that, here, sound is sacred, which is why silence is law, because silence is not the absence of noise, it's the protection of signal. And you are now a part of that. It's not a punishment, it's a responsibility. You remember something from your old life, something you once laughed at. Nature abhors a vacuum, but now, you see what it really means. When a place becomes empty of meaning, something deeper moves in. Tzitio wasn't left behind, it was cleared. To make room for something ancient, something circular. And now, the final turn of the spiral begins. Your dreams shift. No more whispers. Only images. Flashes of other villages frozen in time. Each one holding a circle. Each circle holding a person. Each person holding a secret. Sometimes you see a teenager in Vietnam standing beside a rice paddy, staring at a tree that hums. Other times, it's an old man on a bench in rural Spain, drawing spirals into the dust with his cane. A woman in Ethiopia folds 10 shirts the same way, every day, even though she lives alone. 10, always 10. And you realize something. You're part of a global pattern. The village is the nexus, but the spiral has ripples. And now, you're a ripple too. One day, you wake up and the village is gone. You're standing in the middle of your city. Same clothes, same shoes. No one notices you. No one recognizes you, but the spiral remains. It's etched lightly into your wrist, almost a birthmark, almost a scar. You don't speak for 3 days. And when you finally do, it's only one word: Tsitio. No one else seems to hear it, but somewhere, someone does, and they whistle back. 3 notes, same as always. You smile, because now, you know. The spiral doesn't trap you, it completes you. And even if the world forgets, you will remember, you will listen. And when the time comes, you'll help the next one find their chair, because the village never truly disappears. It just waits. Silently, you're still here. The lights are low. The world outside has softened into its nighttime hum. And you've made it to the end of a story that may not have had a beginning at all. Just a loop, a spiral, one you stepped into, whether you meant to or not. It's okay if things still feel a little strange. That's the nature of mysteries. They don't close like books. They whisper like wind through tall grass. They linger like the shape of a dream you almost remember. So take a breath, feel your chest rise, then fall. Another one, slower now. The kind of breath that tells your body, you're safe. Let your thoughts settle like snow in a globe that's just stopped spinning. The questions can wait. The silence is enough. Somewhere out there, the jungle is quiet. A circle of chairs sits beneath the stars, empty now. Or maybe not. Maybe one still rocks, just barely, as if someone just left, or just arrived. That hum you hear? It might be your fan. Or maybe it's something deeper. Maybe it's the sound of memory threading its way home. You did well tonight. You stayed curious. You stayed brave. You listened, even when it got uncomfortable. Now, let your eyes drift closed. Let your breath carry you. And if you dream of a circle, don't be afraid to sit down. Good night, my friend. Sleep deeply. Sleep well. End of script. Sweet dreams.